All right. Whoa. Welcome to Unmuted Nation, the pre-show, where it's okay to be sloppy and chill. I know it said 9:05. It's 9:10. Y'all can count. I didn't. I ran out of drink. So I'm gonna take some time. I'm not Alex Haynes too. Listen, I'm all about perfection and I'm all about getting this right. And I'm all about a lot of random things. But I'm going to start this out. Of course, I have people joining me tonight. We're talking about a whole bunch of things. I'm going to kind of start with where I come from the church. So they say like, oh, this is where my heart is right now. I'll talk a little bit about where my heart is, where I come from. If I know a lot of people are going to stumble upon this. We're doing it from a new page that just started getting followers today. I'm not looking for a lot of reach today or a crazy engagement. I want some solid dialogue, some solid conversation, just giving you a taste of what we're building. And why I can still do it at home, because when we launch this in September, we'll be in some bright new shiny studio. So that's all great, right? So I got my drink. Hopefully you have one. You'll need one to get through the hour. It's gonna be about an hour, maybe a little bit more than an hour. I can't give you a solid gauge or tell you what to expect, but I can guarantee you this: you are going to really be able to connect. Not just with this show, but my desire is to really do something. It's August. So it is August. I'm going into my 14th year in media, which kind of seems unreal. And I think I've done a lot of different things. So I decided there's something about being on air. And for me, that allows me to keep a gauge and just use it to keep a gauge on reality and the pulse of people. And, you have your friends, you have the people that you're connected to, and then you have everybody else. And for me, the experience of connecting with other people has been with my time on air with people that I've met, whether I've interviewed them or interacted with them because of some reason, whether it's community service or a project, a concert, and even listeners. It's just been phenomenal. If this is your first time popping on, quick history on me. Like I said, I'm going into my 14th. I think that's right. 14th year. I started as a DJ in college at Columbus State University in Columbus, Georgia. Did morning radio for a while. Did a lot of odd jobs in radio. I've worked in technology and radio at the same time. And that's that. I'm going to have to do this intro again when we launch the show officially on the 6th. But it's all good, right? So that's how it started. And now here we are. The show that I did for the longest, and I feel like I was two shows I was really attached to. But that's irrelevant. Now we are the Unmuted Nation. And let's just talk about the vision for Unmuted Nation. I literally, in 2015, I had a dream. You can call it a vision. People call it all types of different things. And for the longest time, I was using my name as a radio moniker and as a personality. I'm attached, like Alex Haynes is who I am. So Alex Haynes is who I was. And I just attached myself to radio. And for the longest time, I started using the moniker Radio Alexander. It got to a point where I was like, okay, people are calling me Radio. There's a lot of movies that people had the name Radio, and I just I didn't want to be associated with that too much. So, I moved on from that. Anyway, I had this vision in 2015, and I really got the Unmuted name. It just hit me like a ton of bricks. I decided I was going to fester. I'll let it fester. I don't like that word, but I'm going to use that word for about a month. And I told a couple people close to me, and I'm like, I really just want to live my life unmuted. And at that point, I changed the name. I changed the vision for my life, and all of that extra, I'm a very extra person, very detailed. I just go on and talk about anything that comes to mind. I can keep going. And my vision for my life was like that as well. So I decided that I was going to simplify that vision. I just want to do two things: love God and create for my people. Whatever that looks like, however it's packaged, however it happens, that's what I'm committed to. Sometimes there's a lot of loving, sometimes there's a lot of cussing, but that's just who I am. So now we have the Unmuted Nation, and I'm dedicated to building a movement, a nation of unmuted people. And so silence is useless. And so we live in a time where we need to be unmuted. We need to be an unmuted people. So like I said, tonight, my desire is really to set the stage, the types of people that I bring in, the types of you can come. I don't care if you're smoking your cigar. We're having a real conversation. We're going to have a real, like we're talking to real people. Whether you're smoking a cigar, you have your favorite spirit, you just left the spirit and you feeling real holy, like whatever it is, bring it all to the Unmuted Nation. Share your opinion and share your thoughts. And we're going to have people that we're going to come in and talk about that as well. I have some amazing people joining me to talk about some things, and I'm going to use this panel, and I'm going to have panels regularly. Plus, I'm going to have really interesting conversations with really interesting people in unique ways. So share this or don't. Watch it later. Watch it tomorrow. It'll be available in a podcast form, and everything that we do, we'll be sharing in multiple ways. But I'm just excited. You'll kind of see this morph. I'm going to go live from different places throughout the month of August. And then September 6th, we're going to hit the pavement really, really hard. I've got, as much as I want to talk about white people, which it seems that I always have something to say about them. I want to talk about white people and them calling the police on black people for no apparent for living. Like I never thought, there's a lot of things that I never saw coming as a child and even as a young adult, but now I just feel like we're in a whole, this is just a whole new wave of everything. So we're going to talk that if we have time. I also want to talk about the NFL versus the NBA and the differences, why we see differences in the way that they handle their players, the way they handle their organizations, and this boldness of control that's prevalent in the NFL. But first and foremost, the thing that's on my heart the most, I'm going to have to put my headphones on so I can hear this real good. I want to talk about black preachers and Donald Trump. And I want to talk real good about black preachers and Donald Trump. And in this, I'm going to wrap into this. We are definitely going to touch on integrity. We're going to talk about symbolism, love, unity, and Jesus. And I think that's the angle I'm going to come from. I'm going to bring in two panelists that when I started thinking about having this conversation, literally I thought about these two people. One is probably the realest. I used to call it the realest elder that I ever dealt with. Like as somebody that grew up in the church, has preached in the church, and pretty much done everything in the church. I met this lady, and she'll tell you that I transformed her life. But the way that she dealt with these leaders and she dealt with these people. And I learned a phrase, well, no, and I say, well, no, to just about anybody, usually church people. So I'm going to bring her in. She's amazing. And then a good friend of mine, he calls himself the uppity Negro. And he's mighty educated. Let me put it like that. And so Josh is going to come in, and Joshua is going to come in, and he's going to be a part of this discussion. I'm going to bring them in. I'm going to make sure they can hear, and we're going to test, and we're going to make sure that the levels are right and everything sounds right. So if it takes us a minute and you're watching live and you like, this is unprofessional, this is night one, it's going to be unprofessional. I don't care. I don't care nothing about that. And of course, I think when I have the first show, Vonnetta and Joshua will both have to come back as well. But there they are, Joshua, Vonnetta, and good evening.
Good evening.
I can hear you.
Can y'all hear me fine?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Good.
And Vonnetta, I can hear you. All right, so let's start here. Okay, so a lot of people, and if you were watching there or you were waiting for me to get to the point, you're like, Alex, you just talked for 15 damn minutes. Now you finally got to the point, and you've been waiting on this part of the conversation. Invite your friends, invite them into this right now as we talk about these Black preachers and their meeting with Donald Trump. And I'll give some context if you haven't heard the story. I just had my best friend was here, and of course, I mean he lives in another world, but he's like, what? Well, he's like, what happened? And who was at the White House? And what? And and there are people that's where they are. Like there are people right now that they are done with Donald Trump. They don't hear anything. They don't see anything. They don't care. Like they just don't see it at all. They don't care, and they don't care because they
over it.
They don't care. Like it's just they've lost all hope. For that, before we even jump into it, for some of these people, hope began in the church, and they lost hope there first. So they lost hope in the church, and then Donald Trump got in the White House. There's no hope there either. It's a lot of what the hell going on. But when we see, and I have their names, and and I'm just going to bring some context into the story, and into everything that we got going on. Vonnetta and Josh, we got you situated and good to go. So this is the thing. So Donald Trump in the White House called a host of urban preachers, we'll call them urban preachers, that's what they were called, urban preachers, to come to the White House to discuss prison reform. Now, it may have been on President Trump's agenda for quite some time. The first time I recall prison reform becoming a thing that he was following is when Kim Kardashian went to the White House. She spoke to him about prison reform, and she was able to get someone serving a life sentence freed. Next, he wanted to talk to Black clergy at the White House, and seemingly the last time I recall the Black clergy being involved with Donald Trump is when he had a host of them prior to him being elected to come together so he could explain his policies and his agenda and to get their buy-in. And there was a semi-uproar from the church community at that time as well. There were people that were showing up at that meeting or going to that meeting. And my assessment of the situation was that people were concerned that pastors were going to get paid off and start to endorse him because with some of the BS policies that he had, and congregations were upset. At the same time, I come from a background that's from a ministerial background and a church background that's been very mixed. So I went from being Black churches and then like a white church and then a complete mixed church. And so I definitely understand sometimes where those people are coming from, but there was a huge struggle in the Black community, especially the Black community that's involved in mixed congregations or more Caucasian churches, and their pastors standing there saying, "This is the man sent by God." You know, there was this whole Black church uproar with Donald Trump, his symbolism, and his perceived Christianity, as the evangelical Christian likes to state that he has. So before we jump into specifically what this meeting was about, when it comes to Donald Trump and church culture, Josh, what's your assessment?
Donald Trump and church culture, Black church culture, or just church culture in general? In general.
We've seen him praising the Lord. And there's some viral clips of him on the front row. Not in his head.
What was the one where he said, what was it, 2 Corinthians? That was during the campaign season in 2016. I don't think Donald Trump has a foot in church culture at all. The best he has is just the repetition that he hears from Fox and Friends about white evangelicals being the core of his support. I don't think Donald Trump gives a crap outside of the fact that these are people who support him. There's no concept of theology. There's no concept of Christianity. The man never had a church record. I mean, like, of being affiliated with any church one way.
But does that matter? Like, does it matter? Is that necessary to be the president?
I don't think obviously I don't think it's necessary to be the president, but we do live in a culture where, at least right now, saying and paying lip service to people that do go to church is something that's needed to be president. So I think
people that claim to go to church, because church attendance records are at all-time low.
But I think the thing is, for him, he knew enough of how to do the dog whistles and whatnot, so that the people who do go to church, these white evangelicals, knew they were able to hear his speech and be like, oh, that's our candidate. And these are all these cultural war issues. These are these social issues that we've been dealing with for the last 50, 60 years, from reproductive rights to the gun lobby to, LGBTQ issues. These are things that Donald Trump was able to create even more and more of wedge issues that were dog whistles, right, to these white evangelicals, and they're like, he's a Christian. It's like, get the hell out of here.
Right. Okay. So fair enough. I like the fact that you use the term dog whistle, because we know that that's really how he spoke to his community, or the community that supported him, and the community that supports him today. What type of whistle is he letting out for Black preachers or Black people to flock towards him or appear when he calls? Like, I wouldn't say that they are at his beck and call, but there is no damn dog whistle coming from Donald Trump that Black people are listening to. I mean, and there are some of them, I think, that they like. Here's where I stand on it. I think there's three types of people when it comes to three types of Black people when it comes to Donald Trump. There's the Black people that don't give a damn, won't give a damn, ain't gonna give a damn, never gave a damn, don't want to hear a damn word he has to say. There's that Black person. There's the Black person that's an opportunist, and they just look out for their own. We've all had those people in our families, in our circles, in our workplaces. They're just that's just their personality. So they don't really care about Donald Trump. They don't really care if he's in the office or out of the office. What can they get? So they're there and they're opportunistic, and there are things like that. And then there are the Black people that feel the need to be accepted by a certain community. So their belief system is compromised because they believe, in essence, that white is right. And this is not me. This is not me bashing white people at all or anything, but there are types of Black, and there are other types, but these are the three main types in my viewpoint, that they feel like a policy comes from a white person, it must be right. Even if it's oppressive in nature to our culture or oppressive in nature to our people, the majority of white people think this is great, so we're just going to flow with it, and they go with it. When it comes to that type of person, that third type of person, they may hear the dog whistle. But when it comes to the majority of these Black pastors, what is it that makes you say, and I have lots of theories here on why, if Donald Trump called me, I promise I probably would hang up. And I don't have, aside from insults, which I feel like would be useless to throw at him because he doesn't hear, and this is, before we keep going, we got to classify who Donald Trump is. A lot of people think he's an idiot. He's not as stupid as he appears to be. And he is less than smart.
He's too stupid to be the Antichrist.
Exactly. But he's also a master sensationalist. Okay. If there is anything that he knows, it's not knowledge about culture or people or humanity, but he maximizes on sensationalism. If you watch his media career, he maximized on sensationalism, everything about it, even all of his shows that led up to him saying the spotlight being on him. You can watch the press briefings today, and when he's out, and you can say anything to him. If it's not favorable to him, he doesn't even hear you. He doesn't even hear you. And then if he does hear something unfavorable about himself, watch out, because he's going to tweet about you. So the only thing I could come up with on why these black preachers showed up for this was because some of them were afraid of being tweeted about.
You think so? Really?
What else is there?
Negro preachers like the spotlight. They want to be able to say that they went to the White House and met a president, even if the president is Donald Trump. I don't think Donald Trump even pays enough attention to even know who those people were. Certainly not somebody like Daryl Hines. Like, I'm many levels of disappointed in that. Like, sir, you on General Board of Kojic. What the hell? Like, you should know better. Like, G.E. Patterson didn't even take some of those meetings back in the day. But you showing up for Donald Trump?
I agree with you. I agree with you. And I actually, what I meant to say was, I think the only excuse that they could use is that they didn't want to be tweeted about. I do believe that they showed up because they like the spotlight. Yeah. Wes, I want to get your buy-in here. I saw the list of preachers that were there. Before I go further, have you guys had a chance to read the transcript of what transpired?
I
read it, and Jamal Bryant was funny to me last night when he went through the transcript.
I heard.
I mean, he was multi-levels of disgusted. You could tell by his whole demeanor. He just couldn't believe it.
And I mentioned my friend that was just here, and he didn't know what was going on. And I said, let me tell you where my level of disgust comes. I probably, I don't have a lot in common with Jamal Bryant, but I'm probably just as disgusted. Because as I read, it was one thing that I knew that they were there. It's another thing that you see the video footage. Some of these people I've met, some of these people I followed their ministry. So I understand in my mind, maybe what they thought they were going to accomplish. What I don't want to hear from any of them is that God told me to go.
That's what John Gray said. That's what John Gray said.
I'll get to John Gray in a moment, but I don't want to hear that God told me to go, because that is such a simple answer that literally that's used by people that don't even have a relationship with God.
Well, it's also too that God has wisdom and God knows these times. I definitely don't think, people say Dr. King met with presidents, but I was reading today some telegrams that he sent about those meetings, Dr. King, and he talked about, hey, I'm meeting with you because of ... Thank you for inviting me to talk about civil rights. That's the level of wisdom he had to clearly lay out why we're meeting, what I want this meeting to be about. And this not for the camp. I'm not here for you to have a photo op. I want you to give us some civil rights. And he got those things from Kennedy, from Lyndon B. Johnson. So it's not comparable to just be sitting in a meeting and hearing a Pastor Scott say the things that he said that were clearly ignorant and obtuse, and to just sit there and have no courage to say, sir, that's not true.
Yeah, this right here, this photo of John Gray, this really sent me to a whole nother place, because I'm thinking to myself, and as I'm reading, you could see the efforts of some of them trying to steer the conversation towards prison reform.
Donald Trump don't even like black people. But I mean, I just think at the end of the day, I've been trying to gracefully step through this. I have been very passionate about this all day. He does not like people of color, and to be honest, he was created by the church. There's no entity other than the U.S. government that's been more complicit in white supremacy than the church.
Absolutely.
So this is where he gets his power from, acting like he cares about these issues. So now he's denying transgender the right to be in the military. He's doing all of these things that appeal to the church that are really just blatant discrimination. So for these black pastors to sit in this meeting like this man cares about people of color when children are dying while they're in detention in centers where he separated them from their families, it's absurd. It's absurd.
And a little later, I'm going to read some of the interactions between these pastors and Donald Trump. And for the life of me, I cannot understand how you have this opportunity. Let's say you do like the spotlight. You like to shine. You get the opportunity to go sit in front of Donald Trump. Now, with all that's going on in America, you're there to talk prison reform. If we're not going to talk prison reform, I'm not going to sit here and kiss your ass. I'm definitely not going to do that. With everything that's going in from the marginalization of Black people to police brutality to why didn't somebody ask him why he keeps calling this a national anthem protest?
Right. Right.
They didn't do nothing, bro.
They did absolutely nothing. They sat right there and they kissed this man's ass over and over and over again. And I likened it when I was talking to my dad. I don't know if I ever cussed at my dad like that. So I was like, Dad, I don't know what the hell that I said more than hell. I don't know what the hell was going on. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Like I liken this to a meeting of all of the regional bishops going to sit at the presiding bishop's 90th birthday and honoring him in a circle. And that's literally what happened. And then they just left. And so, y'all, we're just going to sit in here. We're just going to honor the bishop and honor the man. And that takes me to a horrible place in ministry in my life when I hear those words. But, I mean, it's just...
their whole language is an honor to be here. Why would it be an honor to meet with a white supremacist? An honor to meet with a man who has children in prison. That's not an honor. We have to stop normalizing this presidency. This is not normal. This is not like a Kennedy that was dealing with the civil rights movement or Lyndon B. Johnson. This is a man who is systemically oppressing people of color, LGBTQ people, anybody who's non-Christian, non-white, all of those things. He's oppressive, and he is in the highest office in the world doing these things.
You're talking good.
I think you just hit the nail on the head. So I don't remember the white gentleman that commented. I'm trolled often just because I'm a little outspoken, and I have this one page. I just turn the comments off on my media page because I will post a video and then every Trump supporter in the world hits the page, and then the next thing I know, I'm like, I can't even say good morning. But there was this one white guy that commented today, and he's like, well, I think that until we start to reach across the lines, I honor these pastors because they did what Jesus would have done. And Jesus met with right. Well, I'm gonna get to that. But he said Jesus met with and he hung with the drunks and the poor and the destitute and the disabled. And I said, in this case, Donald Trump is not that. He is not poor. While Jesus did hang with the drunk and the destitute and the prostitute and all of them, he did not hang with the tax collector and the king and the oppressor. He was not there sitting with the oppressor, strategizing on what to do. Like, we are oppressed. We serve oppressed people. We preach to oppressed people every day, but we just go sit here and laugh. We're gonna drink a beer with you and sit back and tell you how wonderful you are. Jesus did not do that.
Jesus
and in this case,
out devils.
Well,
this man is killing children and oppressing people. I mean, and that there's no other way.
There's no other way to say it.
I just think Jesus would have said, "Come out."
So I think that Wes, you said something that was very interesting. You said we cannot normalize this behavior. We cannot make this presidency. We cannot normalize this. But do you think that Black culture is okay with normalizing this because they've normalized this type of idolization in their churches with their own pastors?
It's because this erroneous teaching of scripture. And, I left the church and left via a letter about our bad teaching on submission. And so now you have a church culture that teaches you got to submit to somebody no matter what they do, no matter how they lie, no matter who they mistreat. It actually indoctrinates us to a dogma that convinces us that we need to protect that leader and endanger the people. So people are in danger. Children are in danger. Latino people are in danger. Dreamers are in danger. Immigrants are in danger. Black people, LGBTQ, all in danger. But people are still saying we got to honor this leader who right now is the most dangerous person in the world.
So if we pull that together and everything that you just said, that is the protective nature of Black culture and Black church. That is, we literally will stand behind a leader that is at glaring fault, mistreating people, his family, the money. We sit there and stand behind that. Why are we surprised that we're blindly, or that the people that we stand behind, are blindly following the most dangerous person in the world?
I'm not surprised. I mean, I'm just not. I think it's on one hand, you have white supremacy, which as a force has killed millions, maybe even billions of people in the world over a course of hundreds of years. And it's still a prevalent evil. And it's really rising up in this nation right now and in other nations where, you have phobias against immigrants and Muslims, and now this president that endorses that. I mean, for these black pastors to sit at this table and act like he hasn't called these NFL players sons of bitches, and he hasn't called neo-Nazis good people, and he hasn't put on his staff white supremacists and white nationalists. I mean, this is a man who has neo-Nazis on his staff.
I know you would be out. I mean, yeah. I'm out. I can't. I tell you.
God, Jesus don't make you stupid. We got to stop acting like Jesus makes you stupid. Jesus gives us wisdom, and Jesus doesn't make us ignorant. He just doesn't.
But can I read a quote? Can I read a quote?
Come through.
So this was a book that was written in 2008, leading up to Obama's election. It's entitled "What's Wrong with Obama Mania: Black America, Black Leadership, and the Death of Political Imagination." Ricky Jones is a professor of Pan-African Studies. He's at the University of Louisville in Kentucky. So it was in the chapter, "I don't care what Jesus would do, I've got to get paid," about the new black preacher. I'm gonna read it. It says, "Obviously, one must exercise great care when addressing these issues." You're talking about something else. "Painstakingly, sensitivity is necessary because when the subject of the black church and its leaders is engaged, the discussion is invariably colored by the fact that a good percentage of Black Americans are cognitively influenced by their deep emotional ties to the sacred." This is the part that I underline. "The Black community, maybe more than any other, is effectively linked to churches and their pastors to the degree that criticism of either, no matter how rational, is often viewed as nothing short of an attack on God. Such loyalty may be degenerative as well as generative, and that it has opened the door equally wide for the entree of many of the race's greatest freedom fighters, as well as some of its most infamous demagogues. Unfortunately, Black ministers, be they emancipators or collaborators in oppression, are often protected from secular intellectual confrontation by the almost certain ire of their flocks, which is heaped upon any critic who questions their leaders' decisions and or motivations." And I'm just saying, like, it's this case right here. They get protected because all they got to say is, "God told me to." Mm-hmm. God said it to me. Because John Gray did that too. His wife told him not to go. His gut told him not to go. But now he got to justify a dumbass decision that he made. And he gets to say, "Well, God told me." And it's like,
listen. Nigga. And I sat there. Sir. I read it. Sir. So to me, the gauge of the Holy Spirit was your damn wife. When she said optics. Listen to the women. No, we say this to children. We say this to children over and over and over again. Or we say this to new parents over and over again. We say this to teachers. The children are not listening to what you say. They're watching what you do. John, I can't hear anything you're saying, bro, because the only thing when I hear the name John Gray, it's all I see is you sitting next to Donald Trump.
That's for forever. It's always going to be linked.
Like that.
And for me, it is
John
not
Gray, Donald Trump.
It's not for me. It's not even for me that I think leaders shouldn't meet with Trump. I believe that there are some leaders out there who could have the wisdom to sit down and speak truth to him prophetically. I believe there could be some Nathans, as the prophet Nathan, who can go in and say, "Look, bro, let me just give it to you plain."
Would they even get an invitation to the?
They wouldn't
That's
get
the
an
point. That's the
invitation. That's
point.
what I'm
Right.
saying.
Yeah. Yeah. They wouldn't
That's
even get
what,
an
but they're
invitation.
out there, and they're, you know, there are people who I believe are supposed to be speaking to him and not sitting there acting like this is okay. Like, if God told you to go, he told you to go so you could tell the truth about some
Tell the
things,
truth
because
to
God
power.
cares about people. God cares that these children are in detention centers, that these different things are happening in the world to people he created. So for you to go sit there and say, oh, it's an honor to be here and not speak truth to power, I don't see where that's God, because his heart
It's
is for
not.
people.
It's not. It's
His
not.
heart is for people, not for a leader. Even the scripture where it says, touch not mine anointed and do my prophet no harm, when that was initially stated, it was about a nation of people. It wasn't about one person. That's the main erroneous teaching in the church, that God is caring about one person to the extent that he said, damn the rest of these folk. And he's not. God's
Whew.
not like that. God's not like us. He's not preferential. He doesn't care about
He is
Donald Trump
not.
being president to the extent that he says, forget these folks that he's hurting. You got a group of pastors in the room who say they're for God, and not one of them challenged this man on separating these families.
Not
Not a
one.
single one.
Not one
Not one.
had a spine. Not one.
Not one.
They didn't
Not
have.
one.
That's,
And
They didn't have.
it frustrates me. It
yeah.
bothers me. It baffles me. I was upset. I literally, once I read the transcript, this was the chain of events for me today. It was like 2:30. I started reading this transcript. I don't know if I'm upset, sad, deranged. I didn't know if I wanted to take a run. I didn't really know. I felt so many things because of what I know about myself, is that there's no way way in hell that I would. First of all, like I told y'all, I would hang up. I'm not going.
You know what it was too? It was the day after LeBron. I think it was such a letdown. The day after this brother from Akron looked at his life and said, let me give some children something I didn't get. And as a black man in America, started this school, invested money, who has helped his friends he grew up with go to school and learn stuff that can help him build community. To see that demonstration and then the next day look at these people sitting around the table, it was mind-blowing to me. I wasn't surprised by it, but it was that comparison of, okay, this is a brother who's about community, about helping people, and then there's this. And it was very disappointing for me, because some of those people I know. And I don't know what to do with that. I'm just like, I don't believe they're horrible people. I don't believe they're bad people.
I don't either.
I just think it was a bad decision.
That's gonna work though. I feel like
I'm a little different on that one.
I think let me just say this. I think that this is a bad decision that's gonna stick with you. This is a bad decision that it's literally defining you, at least to a general group of people. And like I said, I don't want to hear you tell me that God sent you there. And I really think that your lack of credibility hinders your ministry. And this is, and I will say it this way. It may not hinder the people that come to your church that are following you blindly anyway. Unfortunately, those aren't the people that you need credibility with. The charge literally is literally to go and make disciples. And the people in your church aren't the people you're called to call anyway.
Can I push this just a little bit? Now, this is a little bit personal for me, but just to push this point a little bit. Let us remember. So this is 2018. So let us go back 10 years ago, when Jeremiah Wright stood up at a press conference and did exactly what we say we wanted black preachers to do. Jeremiah Wright said, "I got some issues with this." He says, "I'm a pastor. I'm not a politician." And black folk were the first ones to throw him under the bus. And eventually we get to a point in which Obama has to distance himself from him. We get this speech about race in America. And we actually have an emblematic, we have a representation of what it means to be black, to be a preacher, to be on a national stage and speak truth to power. But as far as history books are concerned, Jeremiah Wright was on the wrong side of history. Because to your point about being beholden to his church and not to the people, Jeremiah Wright's answer was, I'm beholden to my church. I've been teaching this at my church for the last 38 years. I'm going to stand by my church because these are people that hired me, selected me, and I've been leading them for for this amount of time. And black folk nationwide were like, bro, that's the wrong time. And we trying to get a black man elected to the presidency. I get it. That's a legitimate logic. I understand what was on the line. But, when we talk about the logic of this and what we really stand for, I think we have an instance of that. Now, sure, Barack Obama ain't Donald Trump. I mean, I get all that. But just the national stage, taking a national prophetic stance, speaking truth to power. Because at the end of the day, nobody can say Jeremiah Wright's ideology was fundamentally wrong. We have a problem with the politics. We don't have a problem with the prophetic.
Tiff, welcome to the show.
Hello. I could not drive home fast enough in this flooded downpour of Atlanta.
Sorry to hear that. It's not raining here.
We got a full downpour today.
He's not sorry.
Full downpour. He's not sorry at all. I just drove through. I'm pretty sure I passed Noah and the ark on my way home. I'm almost positive.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry. I'm verbally sorry. I'm not literally sorry.
We're aware.
But okay, Josh. I think that's a good point with Jeremiah Wright, and I think where I get conflicted is, where is Jesus in all of this?
He wasn't at that table.
He sure wasn't at that table.
And if he was, he was flipping it over.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I can't. That's what I always come back to. Like, even when I have had my issue, God knows I have had my issues in churches. And it's never because, it's just because I'm looking for some integrity and some honesty. That's all.
Listen to me.
And some love. And I think...
And you got a right to expect that in church, too. I'm tired of people acting like it's crazy to expect integrity in church. Like, really? I'm sorry. I digress.
That's a whole different conversation. A whole other show.
Yeah, that one may have dug deep. But I think that, I have, and I try to keep it simple, because I think what we need more than anything is accountability. And so we know that the church people, like the people that go to these churches, for the pastors that were there, they're not going to be held accountable from these congregations. And going back to what I said in the opening statements, people, there's a generation, there's a whole group of people that don't care. They don't care. So while they're bold enough to speak on the issues with it, they saw the issues with it today. They have problems with the pastors, and you had a sect of people point at this action and say, that reason right there, this lack of integrity, the lack of honesty, the lack of transparency, the shucking and jiving that these black pastors did right here, this is the reason why you won't see me step into a church. Mm. Whether that's the reason, whether that's the actual reason or not, we can debate that all day. But I go back to credibility, because what type of credibility do you have? Does your ministry have? Do you have as a minister? When you want to come into my community, allegedly, and this is what you say, you want to come into my community and you want to minister to me, yet you cannot speak the truth to power. You will not, you won't stand up for me when it matters.
Yeah.
I can't understand these people that are going to be in their kitten heels. Like I said on my Facebook, you're going to be in your kitten heels running through the parking lot at these churches on Sundays.
Kitten
and y'all
heels?
are going to be running. Y'all are going to be running into these churches on Sunday, sitting here because you need a word. And the conclusion that I was okay with drawing today, which I've known, and it's hard for me to accept this because I just believe in people so much more than this. But the majority of the people that are going to accept this from their pastors in these churches, I believe that their message is not really the cause of Christ. They just like church. They like church culture. They like the way it makes them feel. They like music. They don't give a damn about souls. They're not trying to see nobody saved. They forgot the Great Commission. And They're in it, and if that's what you ascribe to, then I guess you're in the right place.
Well, for some, it's not even that they like church or like the act of church. It's that that's all they know. That's all they know is to follow the tradition of church, to follow the tradition of, I got to be in there every Sunday. I got to be at Bible study every Tuesday. I got to go to the prayer meeting on Saturday morning. I got to join let me not throw shade. I got to join the prayer call every, 6 a.m. morning. I was about to say something, but, let me not get personal. Some people, that's all they know is the tradition of church, to fish fry every fourth Sunday, men's choir every third Sunday, youth choir every fourth Sunday.
Can you stop? You made it way too personal. Can you stop? You just made it real personal. You just talking about your life.
I'm not saying that's my life. I'm just saying, for some people, it's not necessarily. I have seen many a miserable person sitting on a pew.
Okay, I agree with that. So do you think when if that's all you know? Because I'm still stuck on accountability. Are these people not going to hold their pastors accountable?
Nah, they're not going to hold their pastors accountable.
They got about as much courage as the people sitting.
Wait a minute. Was that a collective? I saw all three heads shake. No.
Oh.
Yeah, that was in unison. Those people have about, in my humble 2 cents, those people have about as much courage as John Grace did sitting next to Donald Trump.
They don't believe they have the right to hold their pastors accountable.
Well, and then there's that. Now that's a word. Wes. Say that again.
Can you say that one more time?
They don't think they have the right to hold their pastors accountable. It's not even a question of will they. If you've been taught that basically the pastor-parishioner relationship is about enslavement and do whatever I say do, and whatever I preach, that goes, that we're not even taught in church anymore to be like the Bereans and to go study scripture for ourselves. In fact, we're told, don't listen to Joyce Meyer, don't listen to these people, don't mix the word I'm giving you with the words you're going to get from somebody else. And it's such a control and a manipulation that the people don't even know they have a choice to move. They're acting like trees, like God doesn't want me to go anywhere. I don't even have my own mind. So I see my pastor at this table, contrary to everything I believe, sitting with a man who I believe if he had to choose between a Klan member and my black mama, he'd choose a Klan member. And you gonna sit at the table with him and act like all is well, and it's not well. And you had a choice to speak truth to power. But what you can't do is throw Jesus under the bus and act like Jesus would have just sat at that table and had some wine and some bread.
Wes, I'm going to have to cash app you real quick for your offering.
With somebody who is destroying people. You can't act like Jesus doesn't care about people. I mean, that's just where I draw the line. I'm like, no, you just don't do Jesus like that. He died for people.
They went too far. I think, listen, I want to read this and we'll discuss. When I start reading it, you guys will know who said it. And if you're watching or either live or the replay, then you'll know. You'll find out. Optics. It's never about what it is.
You might want to mute us. If you can.
I just thought about it. Let me get y'all out of. Let me take y'all out so I can get this out. Optics. It's never about what it is. It's about what it looks like. My wife told me if you go, no one will hear what you say. They won't understand why you're there, and any good that could come out of it will get lost in translation. Wise words from a loving, discerning wife. I had not one thing to gain by being there. Not one. But I asked the Lord when I was asked to be present in this initial meeting about potential prison reform that could greatly end up benefiting many people who look just like me. Lord, do you want me in that room? My first mind was no. The pain of so many is too real. The hurt, the isolation, the sense of disenfranchisement, the real hate that has bubbled to the surface of the national discourse. I myself have been vocal about my personal disagreements with key policy decisions of this administration. I have everything to lose: credibility, reputation. Every natural inclination says stay home. Don't get played. But I did the one thing I can't shake. I prayed again and asked God, do you want me in that room? My attendance gives the answer. My heart was pure, as was my motive and intention. But the pain of those who have been hurt is real. And I would be a dishonorable man not to acknowledge that. But I will honor what I believe was the mandate all my life, to be there and available to God should he choose to give me a voice. This post is in no way attempting to invalidate the visceral reaction of those who can't imagine why I would be in that room. The question becomes, who did Jesus turn away from? This said, I went to this meeting to listen. And I do pray for comprehensive prison reform so people can have the second chance they need. And I also understand the pain and questions. May my heart translate beyond the optics. Oh, yeah. The pastor who said the current president was the most pro-Black president ever was not me. So get that straight. Love y'all.
I'm unavailable. I'm unavailable. I'm unavailable.
You know, Marvin Sapp has a really good song that he came out with not too long ago called Listen. If everything, now I get some people say, well, I felt like, I shouldn't have done it. So I knew that was the Lord. Sometimes that's indigestion. Sometimes that really is the Lord telling you, no, beloved, don't do that. Don't go there.
Most of the times, if the Lord sounds just like you, it's not the Lord. It's just not. That's a good litmus test. I would do that. And most of the things that you like, let's just be real. Look at yourself. Say self. Like self. How real? Like,
we church.
Let's just be real. Let's just be. If you're completely honest, and then if you can align what you heard with something that you've read before, something that you've seen clearly in the Word, or it aligns with the character of Jesus, it's not too far fetched. Who did Jesus turn away from? He flipped the tables on the damn tax collectors. I feel like that's turning away, if you asking me, John. Personally, that's just what I want to know. And I really want to say, like, all this lip service that you're giving your wife, how she's honorable and loving and wise, you don't give a damn about her either because you didn't listen.
No. And I believe that. I believe she was hearing from the Lord. She was. Now, I'm not going to, let me not discount the possibility. Listen. Let me not discount the possibility that he really did hear the Lord, because he asked the question of, Lord, do you want me to be in that room? God may have said yes, but God may have meant for a different appointed time and not this time, not right now. So I'm going to give God the benefit of saying,
I need you to quantify that, because the Lord, listen, when he talked to the Lord and asked him, the Lord knew he was talking about this meeting yesterday. He knew that.
Listen, I'm trying.
Wait, I'm gonna let you try, because I'm going to counter. I would also like to share, after John Gray opened this meeting about prison reform that never got to prison reform. Right. Let's talk about
how you talk more to Kim Kardashian about prison reform than you do urban pastors.
He had no intention of talking to these pastors about prison reform. If you know who Donald Trump is, then you know that.
I know that.
As far as I can tell, Donald Trump has narcissistic personality disorder. What those men and those handful of women did, or what one woman, actually, it was only Paula White, wasn't it? What they did was they said, thank you for inviting me, which does nothing but, Dr. Alveda King, I'm sorry. What they did was kiss his butt.
Hour for Alveda today. I don't have the hour that I would like to spend on Alveda. I would like to put her picture up and put her all around me so I can point at where she was in each picture and why it was an issue. But I don't have time to do that today.
But what they did was they said, thank you for the invitation, which does nothing more than boost his ego. It boosts his narcissism, but they were just happy to be sitting at the table and do nothing with the actual seat at the table. They were just happy to be invited. And I'm not saying I'm not going to try to say they were paid off, but I mean, they knew that all they needed to do was just, play into the script, play into the role of just saying, thank you for inviting us. Because that's all Donald Trump needed. That's what he always does. That is what he did in North Korea. That's what he does with Russia. It's just like, I'm just happy to, the White House wants to find people who are just happy to be on the stage and share the same space with Donald Trump and have the platform, have the cameras on them. There's nothing substantive about it. There's nothing real about it. There's nothing behind it. There's nothing more than smoke and mirrors. And unfortunately, the black preachers, the black pastors, the black clergy, the black religious leaders that showed up for this just played into it. I think the problem is, while Daryl Scott is just an asshat, just an ass clown, we knew this back in 2016. The problem is, at least this last time, we actually got some real people, people that we actually kind of, I mean, I don't follow John Gray in a sense, like I listen to him and follow his teachings, but I mean, like, he has some credibility to him. Daryl, I'm gonna go back to Daryl Hines. Daryl Hines has legitimate credibility behind him. He is on the general board of Church of God in Christ. Like, what does it mean to be in that space? And back to what I said earlier, the fact that they thought it was okay to even invite you or give you clearance lets me know, like, well, apparently the White House thought you were going to be a safe Negro. That's problematic off jump as far as
that there is the problem right there. Safe Negroes. I mean, this is what I got from it. Okay, so John, this is what you said on your post. I also don't feel like they were intelligent enough to know that there was a transcript that was going to be released, because everything that happens in the White House is recorded. So y'all out here trying to save face, but John, it seems to me that you're the only person that had another staff member from your church in the room. Because from what I saw in the transcript, John Gray's CFO was there as well. To that point, John Gray, this is his interaction with Donald Trump. Mr. President, John Gray, senior pastor of Relentless Church in Greenville, South Carolina. And I am grateful for the opportunity to be at this table at a time in our country where faith is becoming a bit of a dinosaur. In a time of moral relativism and secular humanism, it is refreshing to know that those of us who have committed our lives to fighting for people who cannot fight for themselves have a seat at the table to share our hearts. Okay? From the John that I know, that I do know, I felt like, okay, maybe John's going to stay on message. He was one of the last people to speak to Trump. And when I think about the history of the church in this country, we have always fought for those who could not fight for themselves. So when I think of those who are coming out of prison who want to contribute, this is critical. When I think of veterans, I have here the obituary of my uncle who passed away a few weeks ago. He was 77, a veteran in the U.S. Army, and he battled through mental illness and other challenges. And we saw systemic poverty, multi-generational poverty, but had he been resourced with proper care and had he been resourced with other necessities, he could have contributed even more. Sorry to hear about your uncle. He was old. He passed away at 77. He did live a long life, but that has nothing to do with prison reform. That's just Alex thinking out loud. But this, John, and I am so very grateful for you, for this administration that's allowing for this conversation. And again, my prayer is that you will continue to have wisdom and insight to lead this nation. Truly, all of us are created equal. And so thank you for giving us an equal opportunity to fight for this nation and what it means to be an American. Thank you, John. Thank you. How many people are in your church? Well, we started 3 months ago and we have about 5,500, 6,000. Yeah, that's what I heard. I heard it's really incredible. Very quick. Yes, sir. Now, John's is the last person that Trump talked to. Trump is all into John because he has the numbers. Okay, that's first and foremost.
Yes.
You said John does?
Yes, because that's
because of the church that he just got.
Donald Trump
wants.
He's all about the numbers. He's like, oh, John, you must be doing something great because it's very large, very great, very big. It's huge. It's huge. Okay. But
Wes is still muted, Alex.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Here we go. Wes, I gave you
1,000 members.
I gave you the spotlight. These members are carryover members. But what about this lie? I'm so very grateful for you.
Did you call them carryover members?
That's a lie. That's a lie. I'm so very grateful for you. No, you're not.
I'm sorry. Are we not going to mention that Marvin Winans Jr. was there?
I didn't go through the whole list of the people that were dead.
Not worth my time. Not worth my time.
Marvin Winans wasn't worth my time. Paula White, for damn sure, is not worth my time.
Well, Paula White ain't been worth time for a minute.
I mean, this is not. I'm not here to have a drag pastor session, but Paula White has no morals. Okay, none at all. And what she has said, like Donald Trump. If you don't believe that Donald Trump is, I don't even have the quote in front of me, so I don't want to misquote her.
I got it up. I'll pull it up. Which one you want?
She's the type of person that'll sue me, so I just leave it alone. But
oh, I was about to say something so shady.
The list of people that were in that room, Joshua, you've alluded to it. West, you've alluded to it. Tiff, you've alluded to it. We are so when you see the greetings and salutations of these are the things that I was wondering. These people, you have congregations at home. Could you stand if Donald Trump was standing there in your pulpit? Would you say these same things to him, or were you just saying them because you were sitting in his house?
But remember the bishop in 2016. Wayne Jackson, who's the father of what's the guy's name? Brandon T. Jackson, good famous actor out of Detroit. Remember, he invited Donald Trump to his church in 2016. Now, my friends back in Detroit, they were like, let's be clear, not that many people showed up for it, but it was still just this idea that there were black clergy who were endorsing it. Well, maybe not endorsing, but at least embracing Donald Trump from the jump, because they were more worried about the cameras and the fame and the fortune that it brings, and this idea, this living into Romans 13, that government is good and having an entree into it. And let's be clear, Carter G. Woodson was talking about this back in the 30s, back in the 19th, like this idea of white government, white officials who are elected officials and white people in power in government carrying the favor of black leaders, black civic leaders. This is as old as at least as old as post-slavery, when you had free black people that were actually doing the damn thing. And it's this idea that if we get a seat at the table, which is why I don't think it was lost on me that John Gray used this metaphor of the table, because it's so appropriate. And it's like for Wayne Jackson to do that, for these people here, for Daryl Scott even to do it, it's like it's this warped sense of like access to power. And I don't know quite what to do with that, because at this point in 2018, we should be able to know this has not necessarily guaranteed that black folks' lots are going to be better after having sat down at the table, after trying to negotiate stuff. I'm at this point, I need a theology of resistance. This theology of assimilation is a theology of accommodation. This Romans 13 idea living into it. Like, that is not at the central and the core part of our gospel message as Christians. It is not what Jesus would have done. And anybody who says that is this bad interpretation of the Bible. And it's like, what are we here for? What were you actually called to do? Were you called to, was your call to ministry that you make sure that God is going to make sure I have a seat at the table? Or is it your call to ministry that Luke 4, he has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He's anointed me to preach, to set at liberty to them that are captive, to give sight to the blind. If your ministry as a preacher, as a pastor, is not in line with what Jesus says in Luke chapter 4, I got a question. I'm going to question your ministry. I'm going to question your call. And as far as I'm concerned, what we saw yesterday, those people sitting at the cabinet table in the White House, y'all off the mark. Just flat out for me.
I agree with everything you just said. What I don't understand is how we have now had 2 sessions of urban pastors, leaders, or whatever, sitting or meeting with 45, because I refuse to call him anything but, sitting with 45, and not one has had the courage, the boldness of Christ, or anything else that Jesus would have had as a rebel with a rebel spirit, to sit there. And Paula said in the meeting, in the transcript, thank you for bringing faith-based back to the White House. How? Where? In what policies that this administration is enacting is based on faith, is based on Christ. Why isn't someone asking those questions? I would have had so much respect had any one of those people listed on there that were invited for one of them to say, how is not allowing transgender people to join the military, how is that faith-based? How is us talking about what bathroom somebody uses faith-based? How is us removing some of the voting rights in the Supreme Court that have been protecting our voting rights for decades? How is removing that faith-based and not being discriminatory against our people? How is putting children in detention centers and separating them from their families, people who have been here longer than all of us combined for families and generations? How is that faith-based? None of this is what Jesus would do. Why is not one leader, and I use the term loosely because a leader would have more courage to step up and do those things, how is not one of them able to sit at that table and say, thank you for the invitation, however, I have some questions? I got questions.
Listen, all very good, and this is a dialogue that we have to keep having. I think that I'm going to let you guys have your final words. This is we didn't get to even go through that transcript, and it's probably best that we didn't. I say this because I'm not surprised at all that Donald Trump thinks that he's doing great with the blacks and that black people love him based on the interactions he had with black leaders today or yesterday. The fact that the black leadership went and kissed his ass and told him that his policies are doing great. Everybody loves the stimulus. We love what him and his administration are doing. We love what you and your administration are doing. We support your policies. You say that, and then you have people like, this is why Maxine Waters gets ostracized. This is literally why there's attacks on black people, that they have to have big mouths because they're out there telling the truth. On that note, Tiff, your last word.
Oh, I don't know why you came to me first.
Because you're long-winded and I'm gonna wrap you.
Oh, I hate you so much.
Tiffany speaks in Amplified Bible, so that's like her literal language.
I'm
you
not
still
doing
thinking?
this.
I'm
not doing
gonna
this with
let
you
Josh
today.
rap. I'm gonna let Josh rap. Josh.
So, I mean, my final takeaway is, to anybody that's listening, if you identify as Christian, my word would be identify and carve out, create, generate a theology of resistance. This is not the time to be accommodationist. This is not the time to be assimilationist. The government is anti-black right now, as far as I'm concerned, from its policies, from its legislation, from what Congress is trying to do. It's anti-black, right? It's anti-black and brown. I'm sorry, it's anti-black and anti-Hispanic. As far as our bodies, we're not talking about police brutality. We're not talking about, as we've already said, immigration. What's going on at the border as far as children, the educational policies of Betsy DeVos. I mean, find a theology of resistance. Align yourself with the church. Align yourself with the community of faith that is articulating a theology of resistance, so that we have and we can embody what it means to wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities and spiritual wickedness in high places, which is why, for me, why my blog was Don't Sit, Stand.
Major. That's amazing. Thanks, Josh. Next time, I got you. Appreciate it, man. All right, Tiff. Oh, actually, Wes, your last words. I know it's a lot.
Of the moral fiber and the moral courage that we have to have, particularly right now, as people who say we follow Christ. And that's the key part I think we've forgotten in this label, Christian, that we're supposed to be Christ followers. And it's really disheartening to see men who sat at that table who aren't afraid to tell people, God said, give this offering. God said, give this seed. God said any number of things. And you do that in a way that kind of controls the people. But when you're sitting in a space where you literally could have influence and you have the ear of a man who's enacting policies that are harmful to millions of people, and you say nothing, you can't convince me that's Christ. And I think we have a right and a responsibility at this point to expect a different type of leadership in the body of Christ. And as I looked at that yesterday, that's my thoughts around that. We should be far more courageous. Um, we should be far more wise. We should be walking in a great wisdom. And again, it's not that I believe leaders shouldn't meet with Trump. I can't emphasize this enough, though. We cannot behave as though this is a normal within the last 60 years presidency, because it's not. The rhetoric that this man engages and uses is anti-democracy. And if you're a Christian, quote unquote, who's saying you don't like democracy, then I challenge you to look at some other forms of government where people are highly oppressed. And if you're saying you want this man to turn this country into a dictatorship, then, find the Christ in that. More than anything, I think the church has to examine as a whole, and then as leaders and pastors, do we really want to follow Christ? I always think that's the question at the end of the day, because you can't blame a lack of courage on Christ. He was the most courageous being. And even people who would say, well, Christ would go in and just say, thank you for inviting me. No. When Christ came in some situations and found them out of order, his approach was most definitely not one of, let me just thank you for inviting me. And so there are moments where there has to be that courage. I imagine what would have happened in that space if a Barbara would have been in there. The types of folks who I believe would have spoke truth to power, but Barbara would never be invited. So the question is, why was I invited to this meeting? Because we've never known Trump to want to hear truth in a way that challenges him. So I don't think I would have been honored to be invited.
That's a word.
I'm asleep on that one, Wes. We have never known Trump to be somebody that wanted to hear truth.
No.
That's a word.
No.
We haven't. Wes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will talk more about this. And, of course, it's appreciated. This is the first. My next one will be in studios. And I'm just excited to kick it off raw and real, because that's really what I want to deliver, especially when it's all polished up. I don't like when things are too shiny. I like to keep it straight and to the point, and you brought it tonight, and I'm grateful and appreciative of that.
You're welcome. Good night.
All right, good night, Vonnetta and T-Mac. Your final words.
Don't boo, vote. On a more practical, get involved type of sense. I got to hear my future gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams speak this past weekend, and she gave us a couple of simple charges. And at the end of
gubernatorial,
I did not. That's not a word.
If you said that, typically I would just let things pass, but I was like, I'm not.
That's not a word.
I'm not. That's not a word. I know that's not a word. There are people listening that may not know, but that's not.
No, I did not say that. That's not a word.
Okay.
No, I really feel like
next week I need new lighting.
Okay.
But go ahead.
All right.
Just looking at the monitor, it's like, no, this ain't gonna work.
Okay. I really feel like, if nothing else, we've talked a lot about faith and church and community and prayer and leadership and all of those things. At the end of the day, if nothing else, it is your right and is your job and is your privilege to vote. Vote for the people you want in office, not just in the White House, but for governor, for state representative, for your mayor, for all the people. All of those decisions make a difference. And I'd be damned if I have Brian Kemp as my governor for the state of Georgia. I'd be damned. So was making all the connections that I could to make sure that I am doing my part to make sure that doesn't happen. So on a natural level,
if Dale Bronner continues to stand in a pulpit and not speak truth to power.
Well, I'll be damned if these leaders, again, quote unquote, keep going to the White House and not speaking truth to power. So there's a lot of things that we got to pay attention. We got to stay involved. We got to vote. We got to, as much as we don't want to. And I've had those, I heard you mention earlier, that some people just don't know. Some people don't care. Some people don't want to know. I understand not wanting to know, but my people perish for a lack of knowledge. We got to have the knowledge so that we can fight and we can hold these people accountable, hold our representatives accountable, hold our neighbors, our family, our friends accountable for the decisions that we're making at the polls and that we're making in our lives as the churches that we go to. Hold your pastors accountable. Have conversations. If nothing else, have these conversations. You don't need a Facebook chat. You don't need a panel. You don't need an event to have these conversations. Pick up the phone and talk to somebody.
I say it all the time on my social media. Have it at damn brunch.
Right.
Y'all don't go to church anyway. When you sit down at brunch this weekend, have some conversations
over your
about
pancake and your waffle and your mimosa
and doing things that are going to change the culture and change the narrative and really make a difference. It's up to us to make a difference. If that's what we're going to do, let's do it. Damn it.
Amen.
So Tiff, thank you for the final word. I mean, usually, after the show, I'll probably be talking to you anyway. So I'm gonna go ahead and have this final word. For those of you that stuck around the whole time, we went a little over an hour. We're trying to get it perfect, man. This is Unmuted Nation. And this is the pre-show. We start officially on August 6th. And I've been talking, and Tiffany, and she's still here, but we've been talking about the amazing things that we're going to do with this platform, and just wanting people to be unmuted in nature, building an unmuted culture. I'm completely committed to it, and that's in every way. You should be unmuted, live your life. Being silent is useless. Okay, keep that in mind. All right. That's going to be it. I'm going to sign off. For more information, visit unmutednation.com. We will continue to put updates there on unmutednation.com. You will be able to see all of the updates. Follow us on social media. I'm coming back. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday. There's unlimited issues for us to discuss, so you're not going to miss anything. This will be available in podcast in the Boss FM app, or on the Boss FM website and everywhere else that podcasts are available. And again, thank you for rocking with me. I'm Alex Haynes, and it was great being with you. We are out. I will see you here at this same place next Tuesday. It goes down. All right. Namaste.